Emily, let's go over your paper. And I see you put your quotes in, and you have your works cited page, and you have it divided into 2 paragraphs. Your works cited page, it puzzles me because you have these little characters in here, and I'm guessing that this means, and I'm guessing that these are supposed to be italicized, because these do look like they should be italicized. Let me go ahead and get my review going here and track my changes so I can send it back to you. And so what we really need is we need this to be italicized, and then delete these little things. We do need that period there. Let me just backspace here. Oh, it's not tracking my changes. There we go. And so I'm not sure how come that ended up like that. And I can't hardly, okay, there we go. And did you use the citation machine on this? Because we have this symbol too, this NLT. That's some type of symbol also, and I'm not sure what that is. And it might be underlined. If you haven't put these through citation machine, do that. I'm not sure what these ALGT alt, I'm not sure what it means. And we do usually, on our links, we do put those. I don't think they're underlined or anything though. I'm going to grab my book here in just a minute. So these little symbols, I'm guessing mean to italicize, and I think the other symbols do mean to underline. I'll look that up on the internet in just a second. We're going to work on putting transitions in your paper, and the transitions are the last thing that you do when you do a paper. And let's look at your link here. And it comes out okay. We do not need that other stuff in there. And so let's just go ahead and delete this extra stuff. And you may know what it was. I'm not sure what it was. Oh, we're not doing APA. We're using MLA. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about transitions. And transitions is how you get through your paper from one paragraph to the next with a flow. And it's the last thing that people work on when they're doing their papers. And let me see here if I can get my pen to work today. Oh, I think I've got it upside down. Just a second. Yes. Okay, and we've talked about this a little bit, I think, where we're going to relate these two paragraphs together, and sometimes it's called clincher. But when we do our transition, we relate this, the ending sentence, to the beginning sentence here. So we're repeating 2 or 3 words. And they can be synonyms. And then, to make it even more complex, we're going to relate the beginning of the topic sentence to our last sentence in our paper. Not in our paper, in our paragraph. So we're going to relate it to this sentence. Then we take this sentence and relate it to this sentence, and it goes on and on and on. And when you do this, it makes your paper have a flow to it and can be the difference between an A and B paper easily, because it makes the paper sound better and just flow better. And then we take this one and relate it to this one here. And then this one is related to this one. And then, to make it even more complex, our ending sentence has to relate to our beginning. And we accomplish this by repeating 2 to 3 words in the connections and the transitions. And that's what transitions are. It's how you get from one topic to the next. And I'm sure you get the point without me having to draw all the way up here, but I'm almost there. And so for your paper, hopefully that gives you a visualization, but we take our first topic sentence, here's our ending, those are going to relate. And then we have this paragraph. We're going to take 2 or 3 sentences here and relate it to the second. And then we relate the beginning sentence to the end. And then our next sentence, we relate it here, we relate it here. And so we're looking to repeat 2 or 3 words. We're going to work on that with your essay. And you may have them. Sometimes when I go through and have students do transitions, they've already done some of the transitions. So let's look at our ending sentence here. Both Star Wars and Star Trek have a story and character that are out of this world. The story being told in Star Wars is a classic one. And what I want you to do is highlight the words you're using. And you have fine transitions here because you have Star Wars and story. Let's see if we have story in Star Wars. The story being told in Star Wars is a classic one. And we've got to go all the way down here. In the late 1900s as well as 2000s, the Star Wars franchise began to animate the characters, and the resulting series was considered much more popular. I am going to take this, just because it's so far away, I'm going to copy it. And I'll put it here. And I'll delete it when we're done here. In the late 1990s, I think I said 1900s earlier, as well as the 2000s, the Star Wars franchise began to animate the characters, and the resulting series was considered much more popular. Now here's our beginning. The story being told in Star Wars is a classic one. So we might say, in the late 1800s as well, were considered much more popular. And I haven't done the research, so I may be writing something that's not true. So you've done the research, so even though I write something, it may or may not be true. You have to make it right by the research. This classic story began to animate the characters in the late 1990s and 2000s. Resulting in a series that was considered much more popular. Let's say this classic story. This classic story began to animate the characters in the late 1990s and 2000s, resulting in a series that was considered much more popular. So here was what I pulled from the first, and I was able to use story, classic, story, so I have two words. So I was able to bring those two together. I'm going to delete that now. Now we would need to take this last sentence and bring at least two words over to our next paragraph. And you're starting another whole topic, so that's a little bit tricky in the compare and contrast, but is doable. This classic story began to animate the characters in the late 1990s and 2000s, resulting in a series that was considered much more popular. Star Wars was an attempt to say that humanity will reach maturity and wisdom on the day that it begins not to just tolerate, but take a different, special delight in differences in ideas and differences in life forms. And that's a quote. Oh, and another thing about your quotes, you need the period after your commas. I mean, after your parentheses. You have it there. So we may have to add a sentence here since this is a quote. And I don't know when it became popular. I'm looking for your timeline here. Okay, I don't see you said anything about its popularity. And in this is going to be hard because you started with a quote, and if I put something here, it may take away from that quote, the classic stories. And again, I haven't done the research. Star Trek, popularity, not only involves animation, and I don't know if it does. You're going to have to do the actual facts, but also its view or its political, its humanitarian stance. Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity, and so I can use the words animate, which I have, and I'm assuming Star Trek has animation. I mean, I've seen it, and we used popular, and hopefully that helps it flow a little bit into the next paragraph. So we have this classic story began to animate the characters in the late 1900s and 1990s and 2000s, resulting in a series that was considered much more popular. Star Trek's popularity not only involved animation, but also its humanitarian, let's say, views. Star Trek was an attempt to say that humanity, okay, so we're able to bring two words together. So now we have this sentence, and I'm going to copy and paste it so I can put it at the end because the paragraph's long. And we want to relate it down here. Eventually a series came out that highlighted the original Enterprise and her crew, headed by Captain Jonathan Archer. And we want to talk about its popularity, animation, and humanitarian views somewhere in here. Eventually a series came out that continued to promote humanitarian, if I could spell, humanitarian views. I cannot spell. Humanitarian views. Eventually, a series came out that continued to promote humanitarian views while highlighting the original Enterprise and her crew. So we have humanitarian views. And when you write it, highlight the words you're considering your transitions for me. And if it was more popular, you could say eventually a series came out that was more popular that continued to promote humanitarian views, which I'm assuming it was because it continued. Eventually a series came out that, how about that, came out that was just as popular and, instead of that, and continued to promote humanitarian views. Okay, so I'm going to delete that because that was what I had taken, but I was able to use some words to bring that paragraph a bottom and a top to it so that it's kind of, some people say a sandwich. It's held together with common thoughts at the beginning and the end. And then we're going to go into our next paragraph and we're going to try and bring in 2 or 3 words here. Eventually a series came out that was just as popular and continued to promote humanitarian views while highlighting the original Enterprise and her crew, headed by Captain. Overall, Star Trek and Star Wars both followed a pattern, humans adventuring into the great unknown on a journey to find the path of righteousness. Do we have any key ideas already in there? Overall, Star Trek and Star Wars and Star Trek, both popular series. So then I have popular. Overall, Star Trek and both popular series. That follow a pattern. That follow the pattern of humans adventuring into the great unknowns on a journey to find a path of righteousness. Path of righteousness. I'm thinking about humanitarian. We have one word here. Overall, Star Trek and Star Wars and Star Trek, both popular series that follow the pattern of humans adventuring to the great unknown on a journey to find a path of righteousness. Wow, that's a clause, so we need a verb now. Promote the human condition. I don't know. You'll have to decide. Because we have overall Star Trek and Star Trek promote the human condition. And we could put commas around this if it helps you see the clause, because that clause could be taken out. But what it's doing is helping us with our transition. Overall, Star Wars and Star Trek promote the human condition. Overall, Star Wars and Star Trek, and here's our clause, both popular series that follow a pattern of humans adventuring in the great unknown on a journey to find a path of righteousness, promote the human condition, or promote humanitarian views, something like that. And then we have our ending here, which has to be with our beginning. So let's go up and get our very beginning sentence. Do you believe in aliens? Okay, let's copy it. And we want to bring something about the beginning to the ending. Today, both series have fan bases in the thousands, and each has a website dedicated to promoting new fans with information. Do you believe in aliens? How about whether aliens are real or not continues to no, that couldn't be it. Whether aliens are real or not continues to how about whether aliens are real or not, the idea continues to fascinate viewers. Okay, so we have, do you believe in aliens? So we have aliens here, and that relates to our first sentence. Whether aliens are real or not, the idea continues to fascinate viewers. The idea, how about the belief in the possibility of worlds unknown continue to fascinate viewers? Do you believe? Whether aliens are real or not, the belief in the possibility of worlds unknown continues to fascinate, and fascinate spelled wrong. That's why I love word. Okay, and this was our beginning. And then we have belief or believes, because you can use synonyms, and that's why I want you to highlight it, because if you're using a synonym, I want to know that's what you're doing for your transitions. So I've put transitions in here. You're probably going to have to change it because I didn't study the topics and I don't know if these transitions are appropriate or not. But that's how we do transitions. It's the last thing you do to every paper, and transitions are important for every paper you're going to write. I don't care if it's a business paper or any type of paper, you've got to do transitions. The only time you wouldn't want to do it is in fiction writing. And I wanted to look up examples of MLA style. I had a good one that I liked. Maybe it's, I don't think it's any of those. I was hoping it would come up and be highlighted because I've looked at it a lot. Let's just look at the first one. And here's your works cited page, and I'm looking for one of the web addresses like you have used in your paper. I don't see it. Okay, let's look at a different website. Here's an electronic source. Oh, same thing. Okay, okay, so this has those little greater than and less than signs, and that might be what is trying to show up on your citation machine page. I don't see a good example, but go ahead and look, and I'll look it up too. So when you do your works cited page, I know that that's some type of formatting. It's formatting language, and it's very possible that it is this. And let's just go ahead and take this to the citation machine. and see what we can get if I put it in here. Remember, the citationmachine.net is the way to go to make sure your citations are correct. And we are going to do a website, and we've put our website in there and search and select. Continue to final step. Make citation. And yes, that is what it's trying to be. It's trying to be those greater than and less than symbols. And you can see that Brainy Quotes is italicized. So let's copy and paste this and put it in correctly. And that is this one right here, I think. Okay. And of course it's not in Times New Roman, so let's go ahead and get that corrected. And then you don't have these in hanging indent, so you get hanging indent right here in the paragraph, and it's our special, and we want it hanging. And let's click OK and see if it does it. There you've got a hanging indent. And we know that this is supposed to be those greater than and less than signs now. And let's give this a hanging indent. Special, hanging, OK. There we have our hanging indent. Here we need this a hanging indent. Special, hanging, OK. Because you have this indented the opposite way. So you're clicking, I'm clicking this little bitty arrow here, hanging indent. OK. And then go ahead and fix these two. Put that back through the citation machine and make sure, but I think that that is programming language for these greater than and less than signs. All right, I will send you back. I'll save this, and I will send it back to you so you can have the marked document. And I'm going to send it as marked 2. Let me put it in my document so I don't lose it. And that is the end of the video.